Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the What's Next LinkedIn Live show, where I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming big money, big energy, Ryan Serhant to the show. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we always start out my podcast with something I call bullish and bearish. It's just something to get the juices going. And when I've been doing these LinkedIn Lives, I haven't been doing it. And people have been saying, what happened to bullish and bearish? So I'm bringing it back with you. Are you ready? Bullish, you're for it. Bearish, you're against it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, first one. English and theater majors can make big money in sales.
Bullish.
All right, the second one, because I know you're in New York and normally there's a lot of traffic. Let's go with bullish or bearish on flying taxis.
Oh, bullish. Let's go. I'll be the first one to have one.
How did I know that was going to be your answer? How did I know that was going to be your answer? All right.
Yuri, my driver and I, every day, at least once or twice a day, I'm like, can you just go fast here? And he'll just say in his thick accent, he'll just say, he's like, okay, let me push button. And he like pretends to push a button that makes us fly. And it just makes me feel better. The fact that he pushes that button that doesn't exist one day, just go over the traffic. It's like airplanes. They go over the weather, right? Why can't we do the same?
I so knew you were going to do it. And I'm guessing you'd want your taxi to look like a DeLorean.
Yeah, I don't know. I carry a lot of stuff. I'm a real estate broker. I got to fit families of 10 in my car. And, I've got supplies. I've got stone in the back right now. We're running around all day. I got fake film crews from everything. So DeLorean's pretty tight. I've driven one before and they're really heavy. I'd want something that's like nice and roomy and just goes. Doof. But if I have one, that means everyone has one. And then that just brings up a lot of different, I'm bearish on flying taxi traffic. That's for sure.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And the last one is sort of a softball.
Okay.
Greek women.
Bullish. So bullish. So bullish.
All right. Fair enough. Well, thank you for playing along with our bullish and bearish. Those were just a way to sort of loosen us up. But there's so much I want to talk to you about because I think that you have had just this incredible career, by the way, through two dips in the market in real estate, which is really tight. But maybe you can give a little bit of history. I think you've been selling now for 12 years, but give our listeners a little bit of background on who you are.
Sure. So I got into the business as a real estate agent the day Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy on September 15th, 2008. I came to New York City when I graduated college in 2006. I gave myself 2 years to try to do theater, to make it, as an actor, because I knew if I didn't do it then, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I didn't make it. I ran out of money and I needed a job. And it was bartend, wait tables, temp work, real estate agent. Like those are the four choices between, New York and LA. Like that's what you're going to do. And so I got my license and I just started renting apartments. And if you had told me 20 years ago that one day I'd be a real estate agent in New York City, I would have said like, you're reading the wrong person's fortune because that is not me in any way, shape or form. And yet here I am. And I just became addicted to the process. I became addicted to the puzzle. Right. The deals. I was totally fine with the rejection, which most people are not. Right. Most people, I think in New York City, it's something like 82% of newly licensed real estate agents quit in the first 12 months because it's too hard to make money and they have a really, really hard time with rejection. But I was fine with it because I was being rejected to my face left and right for 2 years. And I just slowly built. I got cast on $1 Million Listing New York on Bravo in 2010. That show came out in 2012. I didn't take a day off my first 3 years. And I just launched my own firm last October in the middle of a pandemic when 1 million people left New York City. And so far, so good.
Well, there's a couple things you said in there, right? It's sort of starting from scratch, being able to overcome objection and difficulties that kind of come your way. But the one thing I think is so greatly misunderstood about the profession of sales is it's kind of viewed as this 4-letter word. Like when you're growing up, you go, hey, mommy, daddy, I want to be in sales. They're like, what did we do wrong? Right. Yeah. Instead, you're like, I'm a theater major. I'm an English major. I'm going to be, but you started selling kind of firewood as a kid, right? So it's always kind of been in your blood. But what do you say to people that don't think being a salesperson is a noble profession?
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone is wholly just one salesperson. Like there's, The Death of a Salesman is a famous play about a person who sold something. So I think everybody's in sales. They're all selling something. So if you say, "Oh, I don't want to be in sales," well, then you probably shouldn't grow up, because it's going to get pretty bad. Whether you're selling yourself as an interviewer, you're selling your books, you're selling your writings, you're creating new drugs, you're trying to sell those, right? You're always selling something. That's how the world works. Once you realize that, it really opens up a world of different possibilities. And selling is just about connecting with people and understanding the intricacies of their personalities and the ways in which you can adapt to them. But like, there's no ambiguous secret salesperson who sells all things that people want to grow up and be. I think people say, "Well, I want to be a doctor. I want to be this, I want to be that." But listen, I know a lot of doctors, they're in our sales course, and they need to learn how to sell their medicine, sell their practice. They're general practitioners. There's 3 other general practitioners. How do I sell myself to the community as the doctor to come to versus Dr. Quack and Dr. Smack? Like that's a real, they're businesses. And so everyone is in sales. That's what I'll say.
I couldn't agree more. Right. And I think that you said something also that, you were working 24/7 in the first couple of years. And I think people don't realize how hard it is to sell, right? The weight of the revenue on your shoulders, being responsive to customers, like delivering value, being creative. What's your process of kind of keeping yourself sharp on sort of working through all these changes we've now been facing?
I'm a big believer in training and always finding ways to get better. I've been doing this for a long time. I've sold a lot, but I might not have all the right answers or the right ways to do things. It's one reason we started the sales course. And so I think a lot of people who are smart took the time in 2020 that they might have had as downtime and took a side course, right? Maybe got engaged into a side hustle where they were able to train and learn something. I was always, and this really clicked for me in like 2009. I was in the business for 1 year and I had a client who asked me, how many courses I take. I was like, "Courses for what?" He's like, "Courses for sales." I was like, "Courses? Are you crazy?" I was like, "No, to get," I was like, I thought he was nuts. I was like, "To get your license in New York, you just click for a few hours. You take a test that's like, what is a house? You pass the test, and then you could advise people on $1 million investments." Like, okay, think about LeBron James. 90% of his time is spent practicing. 10% of his time is in the game that you see. And you're telling me that 100% of your time is in the game? You're smarter than LeBron? And I was like, "Well, I don't play basketball. It's a different business." And then I walked away from that and was like, wait, maybe I should practice. Maybe I need to work on my sales jump shot and my sales 3-pointer and how to work on a team and build. And so I think in order to stay sharp, you have to continuously learn, right? It's reading when you can, learning from other people, shadowing other salespeople, learning from people that are outside of your industry. Like, how do they do their things? How did they get that thing done? How did they set up that team? That's interesting. Take the best, leave the rest, move forward. Take the best, leave the rest, move forward.
And so what do you think, if you were to say, kind of this time last year, we were selling very differently. And then boom, overnight, right? Everything changed.
Yeah, cut the block.
And New York was hit extremely hard, right? And so when that happened and you realized, my gosh, I have, weeks of listing appointments. I have all these properties. I have all this responsibility. Like overnight, you had to reinvent almost, I'm guessing, right? And how you approach things. What was that? What was your process? What was that first thought when you woke up and you realized New York was shut down?
Oh, shit. I mean, it was, if you go back in the history of time, like, all right, what's the worst thing that could happen to a real estate market? It's that no one can go and see properties. They all have to stay home. Or there's pure fear, right? So like 9/11, for example, I was in high school at the time, but like that's pure fear put into a marketplace. Hurricane Sandy, natural disaster, fear put into the marketplace. The pandemic was global. but it was centralized in New York because of the proximity between everybody, right? You're next to each other. You can't get out of your building unless you touch things that other people's touch. And at the beginning, this time last year, people were getting COVID off their shoes. Remember, it was like, oh, I touched a bag and I got it. And that's CNBC. And it was a learning experience. But that first week, which was not now, right? It was 2 weeks from now. It was March 22nd, the week of March 22nd. That's Sunday when Cuomo shut down the city. Every deal died. Everyone. Transaction volume dropped by 80%, 81% in the month of April because everybody went on hold. So we were having a great start to 2020. Let's go. Everything's going to be awesome. Boom. The people that were stuck in contracts moved to litigation. A few people who knew that they were getting good deals anyway, because it's not like the market in New York City was amazing before. We've been in a downward trend since the beginning of 2016. So a few of those people still moved forward. And it was an immediate need to take a step back and say, okay, well, what now? What happens now? A lot of it was kind of waiting, touching base with clients through the phone, which was new, right? Haven't used that in a little while because you knew that people had their phones on them 24 hours a day. It's not like they were busy. It's not like they were at dinner, so you could find everybody. So, a lot of work with my team was, hey, we can't show. There's no filming. There's no nothing. Let's use this time to continue the conversation with clients you haven't talked to in a long time. We came up with this thing called the 3-5 rule, which is every day you're going to reach out to 15 people 3 different ways. 5 people you're going to text, 5 people you're going to call, 5 people you're going to email. Next day, 15 people. And that's going to generate business because everyone else is going to be sitting there watching the death ticker on CNN. You're going to be the one who's touching base with people. Don't even talk real estate. Just say, how you doing? And the people who did it did really, really well. I then took that moment and I said, you know what? If I'm ever going to start my own business, the whole world just shut down and gave me some time to do it. So this is probably the absolute worst time to start a residential real estate firm in New York City. But at the same time, it's probably the best time. And every single person I talked to told me, don't do it. Just wait. Every other firm is cutting costs. Every other firm's furloughing people. What are you, nuts? You want to go spend money right now? Every deal you have is dead. It's like, I know. But I don't think anyone else is going to do it right now. And I want to be the first. And that's exactly what happened. And we spent quarantine, one, writing Big Money Energy, this book behind me, because I just spent so much time talking to people about how to get their confidence back. And then 2, let's go build a brand new real estate company for the marketplace of tomorrow over Zoom. So that's what we did.
Well, interesting you would tell that story. I work for Salesforce, and our CEO, Mark Benioff, gave us a challenge to have 1 million conversations. 1 million conversations, sort of April, May timeframe, not about RFPs, not about, deals, not about demos, but we have 55,000 employees. Different, right?
I thought he meant like you, Tiffany. You got to have it. I was like, that's an aggressive boss right there.
Oh, yeah, no. For 55,000 of us, right?
Yeah.
And then we did, of course, in classic Salesforce form, we hit 1.5 million. And then he said, oh, I must have undershot that. Let's go for 5 million. You know how that happens, right? Yeah. But that sort of communication with customers, did you find the difference? So you said sort of text, email, phone call. Did you also, because you're so good on social, you've really been pushing the envelope on social media, Instagram, and those kinds of things. Were you also trying to do it that way or much more personal?
We did both. The personal outreach is important because people do it less and less. So the more we do it, kind of leaning in to being more personal, it's actually easier now to reach out to people in a cold way than ever before because people don't really do it anymore. And so it works much better. And I think most people were expecting us to sell them on something and we weren't. It's just, how you doing? What's up?
Right.
How are things going? Just want to check in, man. Keep me posted. Let's see, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And then people love talking about real estate. So then they are the ones that start the conversations. And they're like, actually, I moved to Louisiana. Never been here before. This is kind of cool. There's no COVID down here yet. It's weird. No masks. Anyway, I got my apartment in the city. What should I do with it? I haven't even thought about it yet. There you go. So we were generating business without trying to generate business, which worked well. And it's, and we do it through DM, right? Sending DMs through Instagram is a big way that we're able to generate leads. And then posting, right? Posting. We did a lot of letters. I did a lot of writing. both in terms of like community letters, newsletters, just to let people know our thoughts and what was going on in the marketplace. That generated business. So we became very, very in touch with our client base and broker base in a way that we've never been before because we were forced to.
Well, I think that's a great example. And what's interesting is so many that I have seen, excuse me, be successful over this course of time did that very thing, right? Ours was 1 million across 55,000 employees. Yours was 3 times 5, right? Across all of your employees, investing during a downturn, reinventing sort of the business you're going to have, during 2008. Much of the technology we're using today that are allowing us to do what we're doing was invented during the last downturn, right? And so this is the time for sort of this innovation.
Yeah. And I think now, the market's just going to move so much faster than it was moving before, because now having meetings like this, talking like this, doing things through video, buying a home through your phone is now not secondary to seeing it in person. Now it's almost kind of 50-50. Right? Now it's preferred, but I think as things level off and COVID becomes a thing of the past, it'll be a 50-50 thing. I think the due diligence period, escrow period for a lot of real estate transactions are going to be the time people see their house the first time, because they'll be able to move that much faster through video, and it's not going to feel weird or strange anymore because we've now been accustomed to it for the last year. And so that means more transactions are going to happen. So transaction movement is going to be crazy. Never again will someone say, hey, sorry, can we reschedule that showing? I'm stuck in traffic. Like, no problem. Pick up your phone. We'll do the first one here. If you like it, no problem. You want to come back? Absolutely. But I got 3 other buyers who are here, so let's go. And it won't feel weird.
Yeah, and I think real estate is one of those that is kind of hung on, I'm an outsider, right? Obviously, I don't sell real estate for a living, but it's kind of hung on to the way that it always was, newspaper ads, mailers, the things that sort of consistently happen. And there was a little bit of resistance from a lot of real estate agents, at least that I've had the pleasure of speaking in front of or speaking with, that would literally be like, oh yeah, I can't do that. My customers, I think we have a visitor.
All right. He was trying to eat something underneath me and was making a lot of noise. So I didn't want to interrupt you. This is Ollie. This is our house dog. So another COVID treat. One of our head of new developments got a dog during COVID. So he's going to sit right here. Be good.
So I was saying that they were resistant to the change. And now, as you said, right, the behaviors have changed and buyers are now more accepting of doing things in a digital way. Do you think it's going to go back? Or do you think it's going to fall somewhere in the middle?
I think that it'll fall somewhere in the middle. I think it'll be 50-50. But now people are far more comfortable. I just sold a place for, what was it? 15 million. I did a $15 million deal in Palm Beach and a $10.5 million deal in Miami last week through FaceTime. And those are with buyers who never, ever, ever would have done that. They would have gone in person. But now the contingency period, right? One of the buyers is actually going to fly there and walk it during the inspection for the first time. The other is never going to see it because the video is good enough. He gets it. There's an inspection report. He understands it's fine. He'll see it, once his designer is done with it. It'll be okay. And that is something that people are now okay with, which means the market's going to move incredibly, incredibly fast going forward. And not just real estate, right? Kind of all markets.
Well, so I'm going to shift a little bit because I think often sellers that are really successful, like yourself, will move up in an organization. And in your case, you moved up, and then decided to just start your own, right? Very entrepreneurial. But, it's not always true that sellers, people who are, salespeople, can be great managers of other salespeople.
True.
Okay. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say it's difficult. Most salespeople are incredibly selfish, for good reason, right? You kind of have to be, as a form of defense. If you're not selfish, you're not going to make as much money, right? You're not going to sell as much. So you kind of need to be selfish. There needs to be a little narcissism, in great salespeople. I found, and it's a weird thing to say, but I think it's true, because you have to be willing to have blinders on to everything, including other people, if you're going to move forward as an individual salesperson who is not salaried. There are no benefits. You eat what you kill. And I think those people have a tough time managing because those blinders to manage appropriately need to kind of come off. You need to be aware of other people's feelings, how everything works. And I'm a much better salesperson than I am a manager. I'm working on it, trying to get better. Sometimes my team will write things on my hand to remind me to touch base with them. Like last week, we wrote on my hand, "How was your weekend?" Because apparently I just don't. People come in and I'm like, "Let's go. We got things to move. Let's go. We're building. Things are awesome. How was your weekend?"
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I care. But there's a lot of great books written by great managers about how to manage effectively, how to lead by example, which I try to really, really do. But it comes down to setting the appropriate culture, right? And making it a fun, exciting place to work with great growth opportunities. And I think if you can figure out those three things, then you can manage at least somewhat effectively.
Well, so a friend of mine is on Shark Tank Australia. Her name is Naomi Simpson, and she says she has strengths and non-strengths. She does not call them weaknesses.
Yeah.
And of course, in her business, she does what she's really good at, which is marketing and selling and being out there and talking and, all of that. And then she has somebody who handles her non-strengths, which is this sort of management and operations and all of that. Would you agree with that philosophy?
Oh, yeah. I think you have to know what you're good at and what you're bad at, and what you're bad at or your non-strengths. There are other people who are good at them, and surround yourself with people who are better than you. I mean, I've always felt that way, from admin and employee staff to even just agents that I'm hiring. I don't want to bring on agents that just turn lights on. I want to bring on ones that want to be me. I want them to be in my seat, because they're the ones who are going to work their butts off. They're the ones who are going to see that I got here really early and they want to be here earlier tomorrow. And that's what you want your company filled with, right? High energy, high octane people who are excited with the prospect of their own success, let alone your company's success. Because if they're thinking about how they're going to get their next check every day, you don't have to do that thinking for them. Their anxiety already exists, and they're going to push forward.
Well, that's a great segue into your new book, Big Money Energy, right? All about the energy. If anybody has had the opportunity to watch $1 Million Listing New York, Ryan has no shortage of big energy at all in everything he does. So I'm interested to hear how you put that kind of energy into a book, and what was the big aha for you in writing it?
Well, like I told you, when I first got into the real estate business, I had to figure out two things. One, how do I sell anything? I've never really, other than selling firewood for one day when I was 10 years old, I've never really sold anything. So what are the mechanics of selling, and how do I build a career as a salesperson of a product that's not mine? Like, what does that even look like? What do I do all day? So that was my first book, which was Sell Like Serhant. This one was all about, the second thing I needed to learn was, okay, now that I have that toolkit of how to sell, how do I use it? Because I don't think I'm good enough. And I definitely don't have the confidence. And I'm brand new to this business, or that person's better and she's way better and they're never going to hire me. But I know that I can do it, I think. And when I first got into the business, I would follow and I would see the best real estate agents, and I'd look at the best bankers and the best attorneys and the best of the best. And they had this amazing magnetic energy where they were able to attract success. Like, they would have the best clients because the best clients would seek them out, not the other way around. And I wanted that. And they also had big money energy because they made a lot of it and they dealt with high priced clients and high priced product. And I wanted that too. And I didn't have any of that. I had no confidence. And I was renting apartments to 3 roommates for $2,000 a month on a 5th floor walk up of Avenue D, where the parents wouldn't even come upstairs. And so I developed like a plan for me to get that big magnetic energy, which is all about shifting your mindset so that you can start being the absolute best version of yourself tomorrow. And once you realize that the real boss that you have isn't that guy up there who's sitting in that cool desk, isn't that person over there, but it's yourself in the future, then you can really take a step back and realize, okay, that's who I'm working for. That's the wall I'm up against, because I want that person's life to be great. There's a whole process to it, from, doing a self audit to really defining what that future you is like. We've got a lot of codes and everything in the book, but if you can find that confidence and find that best version of yourself, then anything is possible. You can sell whatever you want, or you don't have to. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I think that's the greatest message, right? I think if you're not willing to invest in yourself, why would anybody else, right? You kind of have to show up. And you said it early on in our conversation, learning, becoming a student of whatever profession you decide to do. And recently there was some research out that said more and more people are doing these side hustles because they have time, potentially working from home, to try new things. And this is a great way. But the energy level you have to just sort of persevere, I mean, I feel like that's kind of innate in who you are. And so for people who might be more introverted and not quite as extroverted as we might be, how would you advise them to have that energy?
Listen, I will tell you, I am not an extrovert by any means. Even now, you put me in a room full of people and I would much rather be on my phone in the corner. But that's not my job. And so when I really realized that the way for me to make the most and to be the most successful was by working with, using, and understanding people in my line of work, but I think in anyone's line of work, then I had to work towards those skills. And those skills are not being in the corner on your phone. They're not staying at home, right? They're about putting on your confidence costume so you feel good about yourself. You amplify your traits so you can hide whatever unstrengths that you have or weaknesses, and you go out and you turn it into your business. Your business is people, whether you're in sales or anywhere else, and the best and then the proof is in the pudding, because I've then found that my next best deal and opportunity has come from somebody else. And every single time I go outside my comfort zone, which is to be around other people, something great happens in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it doesn't happen right now, but it happens in 2 years because of that. And so for those introverts who are listening, you don't have to change who you are, okay? But you need to have a clear understanding of what you might actually think your job is. Even if you're a software engineer and you stay at home in the dark all day long with your headphones on and you're coding, unless you are the absolute best coder in the world and people are looking for you to build their platform, then you're going to get your next opportunity by being around other people and talking to them, right? And talking to them about what you like, right? You can share common interests. That's how you make short-term friends, right? Go and find something in common. A thing that I used to do with salespeople who are freaked out about cold calling or freaked out about meeting people at parties was I'd freak them out even more, and I would take them outside and to New York City. And this is when our office was on 49th Street. I'd say, go up to a stranger and find something you have in common with them. And everyone was just freaked out. No way, I can't talk to a stranger. Like, why? What do you think they're going to punch you? If you think they're going to punch you, then don't talk to that person. Good thing we're in New York. There's 9 million people on the street. Talk to another person. And just see if you can get a conversation going and see if you can find something in common. And when you really try it, it's much easier than you think. People will talk. You have in common the fact that you both love, I don't know, New Balance, that you both have the same birthday. Oh, that's so weird, right? Remember, your best friend was a stranger before you talked to them. So there are ways, and I go through them a lot in the book. I don't have to bore everybody now, but there's a lot of ways to become an introvert who understands that success will come through other people. Doesn't mean that you have to change who you are or change the fact that you actually are a homebody. That is totally okay.
Well, I think part of that is also manifesting what you're trying to create. Like in your first year, you were like, I am the #1 real estate broker. Right? You just put it out there. And it's like, you weren't, but you knew that that's sort of where you wanted to go. So why not create that reality, even if it was uncomfortable for you?
Oh, 1,000. But that's the future you I'm talking about. I suggest most people think about the future them as 24 months out, because that gives you a year to plan and a year to execute, so that you will far exceed that goal, that drawing of that person that you drew where you want to be 2 years from now. For me, I wake up every day and I go to work for Ryan of 2030. Like, that is the guy that I work for. He is somewhere. He's 46 years old. He's hopefully done having kids, and hopefully this company that he started in 2020, 10 years ago, worked out, and hopefully he changed the world just a little bit and he's sitting pretty somewhere. Otherwise, the 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. work days suck. And I don't, and they suck for me today, but that's okay because 2030 Ryan is going to have a great time. And so having that clear vision of the future and manifesting that future is a huge part of the puzzle. And I think too, that a lot of us can, there's so much that goes into it, right? You can't let your past infect your present. A lot of people carry a lot of baggage into their days. You can't let people destroy your days, right? A big part of the book in my life is about time management and how to structure your day for that benefit, and so much more. But yes, it's all about manifesting.
Yeah. And I was going to ask sort of about burnout. Do you feel as if, because some people that 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. kind of grind, especially today with everything else going on, how do you balance that from a mental health and well-being standpoint, especially with a family and you work out and your business and, trying to become that Ryan 2030?
I think a lot of people experience burnout because they're running a race with no end. And of course you're going to burn out. You're going to get exhausted. There's no end. You keep going around the corner and the race hasn't ended yet. And what the hell is going on? So you need to create ends for yourself. You need to create wins. They don't have to be the big win, right? But you need to create small wins. And it's okay to take a break and then start the race again. And maybe it's a different race that time. Maybe you were running a cross-country race that was 30 miles, and now you're going to go run a marathon. Now it's the hurdles. Now you're doing sprints for a year. That's okay. And that way you give yourself something to look forward to. And I think we all kind of need that. Otherwise, you're a hamster in a wheel. And eventually, you're not going to turn the wheel anymore, right? And that's not good. So, personally, for me, I have so many different things that I want to do every year. So even though I get tired, even though I'm exhausted, even though it's a lot, I'm getting to 3 Tuesdays from now because that day is huge. After that, mentally reset, new race, keep going. But I'm still running. I'm still in the same business. And that helps me.
Good. That's great advice. And, as we wrap this up, today is International Women's Day, as you may know, that we are celebrating globally. And the women in your life, right? Your wife and your daughter. What do you hope for your daughter's future? What do you hope, on this day, being reflective of your daughter in 2030 and 2040 and 2050?
Oh my goodness. In 2030, she'll be 11. That'll be weird. I want her to do whatever it is she wants to do. I want her to understand that there are absolutely no barriers for where her mind can go, whether that's being a teacher, being the president, going to Mars, whatever she wants to do, she can do absolutely anything. And everyone can work for her. Right. I think, and even if you look at my own life, I'm at a table right now and I have 4 women who surround me and they're the ones who tell me what to do. And flowers. We got flowers. Internet there. You can see them. They're right. Where are they? They're like right here. Yeah. Flowers for all the women in my life who run the show. But Zena in particular, her mind can't even imagine the possibilities. And I want her to be absolutely okay with that and let her mind run wild.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for spending time with all of us on the What's Next podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to hear your story and learn about your processes and practices. It's just been a pleasure. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany. You're the best.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.